Beacon, NY, became a destination for city dwellers looking to slow down. Old-timers want to keep the boom going, but the recent arrivals want development to stop where it is. One day in the spring of 2017, an art exhibit of sorts went up at 344 Main Street in Beacon, NY. A local artist had festooned the fence surrounding the building, under construction, with printouts of a Facebook post that had generated 1,000 comments. The post concerned the front wall of the building, which encroached 6 feet into the sidewalk. The comments were not positive. The sidewalk was reduced to 2 feet, said Dan Amar Blair, a resident of Beacon. A woman with a baby carriage wouldn't even be able to get past it. It was a flashpoint, he recalled recently. A bunch of our neighbors started looking into what construction is planned, what's at the planning board, what kind of projects are being discussed, and we discovered that there were 1,000 new units coming online. Beacon, recently remade from a faded industrial city on the Hudson River into a bohemian weekend destination around 2003 with the arrival of DIA, Beacon, one of the largest modern art museums in the United States, is now either selling out to gentrification or reclaiming its mid-century stride, depending on whom you ask. During the last year, the City of Beacon Planning Board reviewed proposals for the construction of more than a dozen properties, from a 29-unit live workspace for artists to a 307-unit apartment development dubbed Edgewater. These in addition to the lofts at Beacon Falls, the rentals above the restored movie theater on Main Street, the proposed factories at Madame Brett Park Apartments, among other developments. The future of such construction is currently being contested by residents and developers alike, with 344 Main Street having sparked the ongoing debate. After the artistic statement at 344 Main, its front wall was torn down and the construction was aligned with the storefront of the neighboring organic market. The sidewalk was restored to its full width. But residents' questions about development only grew, and to many, 344 Main symbolized what couldn't be allowed to pass again. Formerly a deli and 3 adjacent homes, 344 Main Street was sold by Beacon city government to Sean O'Donnell, a local developer, in December 2013. According to Mr. O'Donnell, the original properties were in arrears and offered as part of a request for proposal, in which municipalities solicit bids for redevelopment. Public records reveal that the properties were sold together for $5,000 with the stipulation that they be replaced by a 5-story mixed-use building. Mr. O'Donnell is a native of the area, born in Cold Spring and now a resident of Fishkill. For him, 344 Main was a chance to return Beacon to its original heights. He describes the city during his parents' and grandparents' time, when it was an industrial center and Main Street was lined with tall, stately brick buildings. He laments how post-industrial urban decay took hold of Beacon in the 1960s, rendering central Main Street derelict, and urban renewal cleared the way for stout, one-story constructions in the 70s. A lot of people who are here now don't remember what the town looked like in the 50s, Mr. O'Donnell said, who was born in 1965. We were trying to recreate that. He believes that native Beaconites want the city to return to its former glory, while recent transplants resent it for changing the rustic escape they found when they first arrived. For the past 16 years or so, since DIA, Beacon opened its doors, the small city along the Metro-North Railroad, has been attracting transplants. DIA, Beacon was enticed by a vestige of the city's industrial past, a 300,000-square-foot former Nabisco box factory near the banks of the Hudson River. Each year, about 65,000 visitors visit the cultural venue. Many of them linger afterward to stroll Beacon's charming Main Street. Some visitors are so taken that they decide to relocate. Mr. Amar Blair, in fact, moved to Beacon from New York City in February 2013, after he and his wife had been searching up and down the Hudson Valley for somewhere more family-friendly to raise their young child. We were here, he said, and there was a sudden snowfall. We were at the diner, and it just brought me back to my childhood in Saratoga, and I was like, yeah, this is the place. Following the sidewalk intrusion of 344 Main Street, Mr. Amar Blair and his neighbors formed the People's Committee on Development to push for, in his words, right-sized development. The committee researched 344 Main and other planned constructions, discovering the scale of development coming to Beacon. They learned that in a 5-square-mile city of only 14,000 residents, the local planning board was reviewing proposals for the construction of more than 600 new residential units. The size of individual projects was a particular concern. Aside from 344 Main Street, 2 other buildings were rising on the city's main thoroughfare, and all were set to be 2 to 3 times the height of their neighbors. Everything was out of scale, Mr. Amar Blair said. It made no sense, concerned about the impact that all of this construction would have on Beacon's aesthetic, as well as its environment and infrastructure. The People's Committee on Development lobbied the City Council to adopt a 6-month moratorium on development, which it did in September 2017. The moratorium halted construction, allowing residents time to push for a comprehensive rezoning plan, which is still in the works. Around that time, Mr. O'Donnell ended his involvement in 344 Main Street, saying that he was a little burned after the whole approval process. That didn't mean the end of the development at 344 Main, though. The moratorium did not affect projects already underway, and Mr. O'Donnell sold the property to another developer, Barry Cohn, in December 2017 for $6.1 million, according to public records. From 2017 to 2018, Mr. Cohn oversaw the completion of 344 Main Street, which now stands at 4 stories with 24 apartments and ground-level retail space. A former Brooklynite who now lives nearby in Rockland County, Mr. Cohn was drawn to develop in Beacon for many of the same reasons cited by other recent transplants: proximity to New York City, an impressive art scene and a lively, walkable Main Street. While discussing the attraction of Beacon in a local coffee shop, he gestured to the full house of patrons chatting among themselves and said, "People just want to live in a culture where this." Mr. Cohn acknowledged that 344 Main is perhaps out of scale with the rest of Main Street, but he maintains it's the way of the future. All but 7 apartments in the building are occupied, renting from $2,600 to $3,600, close to 3 times the average price for an apartment in town, according to the latest figures from the Census Bureau. As transplants from New York continue to arrive, they will look for modern residential buildings with urban amenities, such as loft-style apartments, rooftop lounges, and in-house workout facilities, over the single-family homes that make up most of Beacon today, he said.